Okay, so about myself. So Dave, I'm not used to talking in the third person here. So Dave is a do-it-yourself investor that invests in financial markets and real estate. I'm a lifelong student of the markets, placing my first trades in 1999 to 2000, right around that era, but really focusing on learning markets starting in late 2006 and early 2007. So I started Systematic Investors Group about 2 years ago. You can check out our site at www.systematic-investors.com with the mission to really empower retail traders and give them the practical tools to implement their own systematic trading or investing processes that are consistent so that they can be confident, profitable, and compete with the funds and bigger players out there. At Systematic Investors Group, I spend most of my time developing, backtesting, and quantifying portfolio level trading and investing strategies, as well as updating the website, which takes a crazy amount of time that you wouldn't even expect unless you have a website. You probably know how much time it takes to update all the time. But we differ from most other trading and investing services, specifically in the area of implementation. So a lot of other trading services, while they'll have newsletters and the like, we actually help traders and investors develop their own customized trading plans and then implement their strategies in a semi or fully automated way using software that integrates with their broker so that traders can execute from one to many strategies in an entire trading plan in less than 5 minutes per day. So this is the journey that I've been on. I've got right now 4 strategies running, 4 live strategies, and I literally trade, like physically trade for probably 3 minutes a day, if not less. Now, I spend most of my time, of course, looking at the markets and developing new trading ideas and doing research, but my actual implementation, my actual trading execution, it takes me, 3 minutes a day or less. Okay, great. I think I've got it working. So can everybody see that okay? Okay. Yes, good to go. Thank you, Wayne. Okay, great. So as I mentioned earlier, session 1, we're going to cover a super easy way to work with dates for monthly rotation strategies. And session number 2, from soup to nuts, AmiBroker strategy development and auto trading. I think you're all going to appreciate both of these sessions, especially if you've been at this for a little while and you want to solve a couple of problems or move forward with your own trading strategies and your own trading plan. So this will be a good primer into that. Okay, just another quick disclaimer from Systematic Investors. This information is provided for information purposes only. All information is on an as-is basis and without any warranties or representations. So all traders and self-directed investors are always responsible for managing their own risk and taking 100% of the responsibility for managing their own accounts and the trading or investment decisions which they ultimately make. A trader should not be trading or investing with money that they cannot afford or expect to potentially lose. So use all information, and well, if you do purchase any products, but use all information at your own risk. Okay, session 1, a super easy way to work with dates for monthly rotation strategies. So I always like to start off with the objectives because, every presentation should have a goal or objective. So the objectives of this session are to provide information so that you can access an easy method that requires minimal coding for determining the rotation trading day of the month based on either a number of trading days after the beginning of any given month or number of trading days before the end of any given trading month. So a little bit of background, I was developing a monthly momentum rotation strategy for my membership site at Systematic Investors. And although I was able to reasonably code dates for backtesting, I was struggling with an accurate and easy way to nail down dates for generating signals in real time. But that also lined up with the backtesting because it required some form of look ahead when generating real-time signals. So my friend Gary B from Mountain Trading Group provided me with an incredibly easy to implement solution that solves the date complexity issue and solves the coding complexity issue. So Gary programmed a date file creator in C#, and what it does is it exports a text file with back and forward data of dates from 1992, so you could do your back testing, all the way to 2040. So in essence, it knows, what trading days fall on which days, out until 2040, which is really amazing. So the challenge was to develop the rotation strategy, the monthly momentum strategy, using a simple date rotation code that trades end days before the end of any given month. So my strategy trades, it takes signals 3 days before the end of any given trading month. So dates for the signal generation and the back testing must consistently line up. So initially backtesting was really easy because you can define the buy date or rotation date this way. So here's a little bit of code, and don't worry if you can't grab it. I'll provide a copy of the slides, and I'll provide obviously the recording so that you can reference this information. I'm also putting a blog post together so that you can reference a summary of the steps. So this is the code that allows you to do some simple determining of n number of days before the end of the month. So it uses, first of month, we're referencing that the month is not equal to the previous month. So the challenge point then is that a new month must trigger before data is available. So for instance, if I'm trading 3 trading days before the end of a given month, in order to get my signals for the end of the month, which are really for January, 3 days before, I have to wait until my backtesting software prints January the 1st, and it recognizes January the 1st, and then it can look back the 3 days that I need. So it really is only effective for backtesting. Now, the coding challenge and the date challenge. Gregorian calendar dates pose so many complexities for rotational systematic trading because of weekends, because of holidays, because of different number of days in different months, different number of days in the same months, and also because of leap years, right? There's approximately every 4 years, February has 29 days instead of 28 in a leap year. So how do you easily define a rotation day in order to generate both live rotation dates and backtest dates when you don't exactly know which date it falls on or which day is the end of the month in advance? Now, as we saw when backtesting, AmiBroker has to wait until a new month has occurred before knowing when to look back n days before the end of the month. So as I mentioned, generally fine for backtesting purposes, where the new backtest will only show after a new month begins. But for backtesting, you're doing 20 years backtest, not a big deal. So AmiBroker, however, can't really look forward and know how many days there are before the beginning of the new month. So you can't actually generate signals in real time with the code that I just showed. So I'm sure there's a solution to figuring out the proper calendar day to trade based on n days before the end of the month, but I couldn't find it, or I couldn't figure it out easily enough. Here's actually one attempt at some code I found online, and I modified it, considering I didn't really understand the calendar math that was needed very well. So I won't go through the code, but you can see it didn't work properly. It was giving me, sometimes it would work and other times it wouldn't. It was giving me inconsistent results, but you can see it's fairly complex. Perhaps for some of you master coders out there, it's not. But for some people that are at an intermediate level of program with AmiBroker, which is all you really need in order to test your strategies, this kind of stuff can get rather complicated. And we want to avoid any complication as much as possible. So in terms of the solution, as I mentioned earlier, Gary provided me with a text file that included all calendar dates from 92 to 2040 that had a column for each date, and it showed the number of trading days that date represents from the beginning of the month, or as Gary called it, the positive offset, and then the number of trading days that date represents from the end of the month, or the negative offset. So given that solution, the solution was actually then quite simple to deal with. So here are the solution steps. So the first thing I did was I modified the text file that Gary gave me for use with AmiBroker. I just had to, make it AmiBroker friendly. So what I did was I added a ticker column. Now I gave that ticker the name tilde 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 trade bars offset. And I used the 3 tildes there just because I don't want to confuse that ticker symbol with anything else, and I want to keep it separated. And then the other thing that I did, now you can call that whatever you want when you import the file that I will provide you with the file. But you can call it anything you want that maybe makes sense for you. And then there's a few other steps I had to do to get the CSV file ready. So then what I did was then I imported the CSV file into AmiBroker's current database as a ticker symbol. So the data essentially shows up when charting the symbol tilde 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 trade bars offset. So then it will reference the ticker symbol directly in the strategy using a foreign statement and the open or close value, and use that value as the signal for the rotation date. Now, for those that have been with us for a while, I think Omar did a presentation going back probably over a year ago now, where we did something similar for a different solution. You can find that in the archives. But this was a good opportunity to do this for something that was simple and very useful for rotational trading. So the open, in our case, will represent the positive offset, and the close will, that should say represent the negative offset. So here's how it looks. So here's the CSV file, and I'll provide you with a copy of this in the next day or so. Here's I added a column here for the ticker symbol and copied it all the way down. You can see all the dates here. The dates are in month, day, year format. And here's the positive offset. So you can see like January the 2nd, 1992 was the first trading day of the month. The 3rd was the 2nd. And then if you look at the negative offset, it was the negative 22nd day from the beginning of the month. So you've got both the positive offset from the beginning of the month. You've got the negative offset, the trading day number from the end of the month. Now, for my purposes, I'm using the negative offset. Okay, now when you import it into AmiBroker using the simply using the AmiBroker import wizard, you can use these settings exactly. So the ticker symbol, month, day, year format, which is really important. I did it. This is a comma separated file. I put it into group 255 into my local database. Now I am using Norgate, and it doesn't seem to conflict at all. But I put it into group number 255, which seemed to be the end of the groups that are available just for safety, so that nothing would be overwritten. Now, so column 3 is the open. So the positive offset is going to be the open then when we reference our foreign symbol. And the negative offset is going to be represented by the close. And then what you do is you just set skip for all the other columns. We're going to skip the first line. And we're going to use these settings. Now, it's important that you use allow negative prices because the negative offsets are actually negative numbers. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Sorry, gang, I'm not checking the questions, but I will check the questions when we're done the presentation. So here is at least this session. So here's the solution code for the rotation date code. Now, obviously, it's not exact because you've got different conditions, but here's kind of the template you can use. So what we do is we've set our parameters so that we can change the number of dates. And then I've got an optimized statement in here. And what it'll do, you can leave the optimized statement in here. For those that don't know this little trick, this was shown to me. This was shown to me by a very good programmer. And this was kind of like a little trick I didn't know before. But what this will do is you can set your optimized statement and it will pass your parameter as the default directly in here. So you can leave these two the same. And if you ever want to optimize, you've got it there. You don't have to switch between a param and an optimized statement. Now, for our entry and exit timing, so I'm using the end trading date before the end of the month. So what I'm doing is I'm setting the variable rotate equal to the foreign symbol that I've imported. I'm using the close, which is the negative offset, and you can use the open for the positive offset. I've just got a little note in there. So the buy date equals sell date equals rotate now, which is equal to the negative, right? Because I'm using the negative offset, but I'm using a positive value for my parameter statement. So just negative BE days. Okay. So what'll happen then is when that ticker symbol has, let's say, the 25th day of December, if that's the rotation day, that'll basically generate your signal. So in your buy condition, then what you do is you just simply state if the buy date is true, which it will be if it's that day of the month. If the buy date is true, and whatever other conditions you have, and then buy equals buy condition. And the same for sell. You can just say sell equals the sell date. So that's a very simple way, using simple coding to be able to reference signals in real time. Now I'll make this all available here so you don't have to try and scribble it down. Now, just a caveat and a note from Gary about dates. Gary sent me this note, I believe it was yesterday, and he said, you may want to mention a caveat about future dates, that they're predicted based on the calendar and don't take into account exceptional events. Here are the list of exceptional events currently incorporated into the historical dates. So there's 9/11 and days around 9/11. There's a day of mourning for Ronald Reagan, National Day of mourning for President Gerald Ford, Hurricane Sandy, and George Bush Sr.'s death. So only 9 over the last 25 years, but good to be aware of. So Gary sent me that note, and it's that is good to be aware of. So thanks for that, Gary. And let's see here. Okay, so we'll get into some questions, but I'm also going to create a blog post that explains this, and it has a download link to the data import file that I used. So I'll send this out. I'll send the link out with the meeting recording. So make sure you're registered as a user at AmiBroker Canada.org. Make sure that if you came in through some other means and you're not an actual registered free member of the AmiBroker Canada group, make sure that you get in there and then you'll get the link. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is, this is the end of session 1. So let me just see if I can pull up my, chat on this screen. There we go. Sorry, I've got a couple screens on my computer here, so I'm just fiddling around. Okay, so let me start at the beginning, gang. So Robert says he's from the ATAA Melbourne Quant Group. Robert, you are absolutely welcome to join us. And for those that don't know, there is a group in Melbourne. I'll probably send out another notification, the Melbourne Quant Group, and they do something very similar to us. So we should definitely link up with your group in the very near future. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so Marcel says, Dave, if you have a minute sometime in the meeting, I have a question about automated trading with Alera. Yep, so we'll cover that. We'll cover that off when we do the other presentation, Marcel. No problem. Let's see here. Oh, good evening, Blair. Good to see you online. Let's see. That date offset file should have been easy to create in Excel using end of month function. Okay, that's good to know. Thanks for sharing that. That was a little bit above my pay grade at the time. I was not aware of that, but thank you for that. I'm going to check that out. So Wayne says, very clever use of a foreign symbol. Thank you, Wayne. Let's see. Marcel, very nice solution. I agree. It can be a bear to work with monthly dates otherwise. Absolutely, Marcel. Joseph, good evening. Joseph says, how do the exceptional events like a closed market date impact the rotational date? So from my perspective, Joseph, although I haven't encountered one yet, what I would assume is like I use Alera Portfolio Manager, and I believe you'll be using it as well because you're one of our members at Systematic Investors Group. Um, from what I understand, and what happens with my systems is if the market is closed, my strategy will generate the signals. It'll put them into the market. They just won't get executed. And then, the system will generate the signals again and overwrite any signals as they need to. And then it'll essentially, they'll be essentially go into the market when the market is ready to open. In which case, usually the syncing is flawless. Like I haven't had any issues with it. So if something happens where, the market's not open, you don't expect it to be open, Alera just kind of takes care of that, and the signals it uses the last signal date for data you have available, and it'll trade when the market opens, so you shouldn't have a problem. Okay, so are there any other questions about session number one and this this kind of cool little easy strategy for dealing with consistent rotation dates? Okay, I'll just give it a minute. Let's see. So there's no impact as long as the exceptional event doesn't happen on the natural rotational date. Yeah, so what I would say is it'll still generate the signals, and the orders just won't go into the market until the market opens. So there shouldn't be any effect. But of course, you'll be watching your system, and you'll notice if there are any issues. I don't believe there will be. So Graham says, "Hi, Graham. Dave, could you put me in contact with the Melbourne group, please?" Yes. What I'll do is I'll send out a notice. I'll send out a notice about the Melbourne group. In fact, I've been in touch with the Melbourne group, and I'm trying to link them up with the CSTA as well, and the Australian Technical Analysis Association. So I'm trying to link them up. I just haven't heard anything yet, so I haven't sent out a notification to both members of the group yet. Trying to link them up. And let's see. So just bear with me a moment, gang. Okay. Gang, just bear with me one moment, please. Okay, gang, sorry about that. So yeah, and also just to let you know, I believe Alan Clement, who you're all familiar with, AmiBroker ace Alan Clement, he I believe he heads up the ATAA. So let's see. Okay, so Rick says, "Great presentation, thank you. I need to watch this again just to understand the objective." So you're trying to count back or flag trading days before the end of the month by the 1 a.m. You're based in Melbourne. Okay, great. Yeah, let me just show you. I'll show you the strategy that I used. The strategy that I used this for. So if you look at, let me just make sure. Okay, so here's my strategy, my rotational strategy. And so what the rotational strategy does, I can't show you the code for this because this is one of my strategies for Systematic Investors Group, but it uses the same code. And what it does is this strategy, using the exploration, it will figure out what the buy rotation date is. So for example, this strategy is kind of set to lock in what the rotation is, and it'll tell you, we're about 4 days into this rotation. So basically the objective is, let me just pull up my calendar here. So the last rotation date it says the rotation date here was the 30th. Now that's when the actual trading date was, and that's what I record. But my code actually uses the 29th the close of the 29th. So what I want to know is, I don't care if it's December, I don't care if it's April, if it's June. I want to know exactly when the third last trading date of the month is, the third last trading day of the month. And what I'm going to do is on that day, I'm going to generate my signals. I'm going to generate my ranking so that I can figure out what are the strongest 6 stocks in the NASDAQ that I want to trade for the next month. So that's basically what it's going to do. So what it did was, in this instance, on the 29th, it generated this ranking of these stocks. So Tesla was number 1, Melly was number 6, and it ranked all of those stocks. And then on the 30th, on the market open, it bought those 6 stocks in my portfolio. So that's essentially the objective. Is if I want to lock in, like if I wanted the first trading day of the month, or if I wanted the third trading day of the month, it's not always going to be on the same calendar date. So this method will allow you to consistently figure out when those dates are. So for example, my back test, let me just make sure I do have, yeah, I'm using the NASDAQ. So what it'll do is my back test dates and my exploration dates will all line up perfectly. So if I look at my last back test, you can see I've got the exact same stocks, and I've got, the exact same rotation date, and actually all of the profit figures and everything also line up with the exploration. So that is the objective. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so let me see. I need to let somebody else into the meeting. Okay, gang. So if there's no other questions, we'll just take like a quick 2-second break here. 1-minute break. I'm just going to grab a drink, and we'll get into the second presentation, which is going to be a little bit longer and more detailed.